working now. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our town board work session and eventual meeting of April 5th, 2022. Can I have a motion, please, to open the work session?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so do you want to start us off on Airbnbs?
Sure. So from time to time, the town does get inquiries about whether short-term rentals of homes are permitted. And Tom DePole's joined us tonight. We're certainly aware that at any given time, there'll be any number of listings on Airbnb and other platforms for short-term rentals in Newcastle, even though it is not permitted if the rental is for fewer than 30 days. So we had looked at this, town board had looked at this issue 3 years ago, actually maybe a little bit longer. Drew Gambles from my office had prepared some materials then. She's with us tonight as well. So to facilitate a discussion tonight, we climbed back into the issue, updated the materials, circulated them to the town board, and
Here we are.
here we are.
All right, so I guess we'll open the discussion. You know, it came to us initially, to Ed's point, we did study this a few years ago. It comes up, I think, every number of years, and certainly in light of, you know, since COVID, when people have been making maybe a little more use of Airbnbs, it was, the board was asked to reconsider this, so we actually are doing that tonight. You know, as to whether we want to allow for shorter term rentals than 30 days, like a weekend, et cetera. So I will open this up to the town board for discussion, and we also have Drew and Tom if they want to answer any questions. All right.
I think that it's not a burning issue. You know, it's certainly an interesting one, but it's not a burning issue, I think, for the town among all the things we're dealing with. But seeing that there's not many people who have shared their voice as well,
Yeah.
I don't know what we should discuss, because I think it's not broken. What do we need to fix?
Yeah, I mean, my concern with increasing it more frequently, especially as the summer comes, you know, do neighbors really want the house next door, for instance, to have kind of a population, a transient population of people that keep renting their home to throw a pool party, to do whatever they may do over the weekend and then leave. And, you know, there are definitely issues with traffic and parking and, you know, how are they taking care of the home, et cetera. So, you know, those are kind of my concerns. And again, I haven't heard too many people, you know, really asking us for this. And I think if somebody does want to rent in our lovely town, you know, they can come up for a month. That's certainly not prohibited. That's allowed, which may be nice over the summer. It's certainly, I know a lot of people did that during the pandemic. So I agree. If it's not broken, don't fix, yeah, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So I'm really not inclined to change it at this point, but, you know, if anyone has any other thoughts about that.
Well, the only other thing I can say is, and thank you, Ed, and your office for preparing such a thorough memorandum for us with local laws from the other towns where you found, you know, short-term rentals available. What struck me were the problems that they cited, that they were facing as they wrote their local laws, and they were mainly to seek to control a critical mass that they had, which I'm not sure we have, but they were really concerned about public health and safety issues and preserving residential neighborhood character, noise and nuisance conditions. They were concerned with traffic and parking. And the one thing that struck me is that these were associated with increases in rent and housing costs, and that it decreased the affordability of long-term rentals, and that it decreased the housing stock of units, you know, in favor of short-term renters, obviously, rather than permanent residents. So there seemed to be a list of concerns as they were drafting these laws. And I'm not sure why we would take that on by allowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the challenges outweigh any
Is that what
benefits.
you saw in all of the local laws as you were looking at this? Before they draft a law, they write their, summary of intent behind the law. And
Yeah, there are different examples of legislation to deal with the issue, but it's very much, in our experience, and I think Drew will echo this, it's been very much a mixed bag in the few communities who have stepped up and tried to deal with it from an enforcement standpoint. The point you made about taking housing out of circulation that would otherwise be available for rental on a longer-term basis, because the owner can
Like an ADU, for instance.
get a better rate of return doing it on a weekly basis. But yeah, it's going to increase the cost of let's say renting a house for a year, which can be a more affordable option for some to ownership. So yeah, there are any number of trade-offs, significant ones that come along with this.
And we are trying to increase affordability, and this would do the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the challenges outweigh any real benefits. And because oftentimes those properties are rented on a short-term basis to host events, et cetera, it could be really disruptive to the town, so.
I agree. All right, so I think we are going to table this for 2 to 3 years until it comes up again.
Good plan.
All right, thank you, everybody. Sorry we didn't have more questions for you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for making that decision.
The next thing on our agenda tonight is a proposed resolution to standardize the type of fire hydrants to be installed throughout town. This request comes from, obviously, DPW and the water unit. Standardizing hydrants allows us to ensure that we always have a proper number of parts and the proper parts on hand. It enables our staff to be able to be more efficient in the replacement of water hydrants and the care of them, and also the fire departments who end up using them from time to time. So with the board's permission, we'd like to be able to move this forward for approval.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I assume the fire departments don't have an issue with it. I think
It's
they would prefer it. Okay, perfect.
The next is the B City resolution. Ed, where are we on this?
That's ready for the board's consideration.
Terrific. Okay, so, okay. All right, are there any questions as to the modifications?
I had a question, and some of that had to deal with, I'm just trying to turn to it. I know that part of that resolution entails, part of being a B City USA, so I wanted to turn to the resolution, means that we.
It's actually on the separate.
Yep, no, I have it. Means that we are going to use natural and plantings that that are endemic to this area. Now, I know that there are some, native plants that are better than others, because while they're all great, I think some, if you are not skilled in how to sort of maintain it and keep it well, that they can become invasive. And so I would like to propose and see if we can put in here, and I actually sought out a local landscape architect who knows a lot of this, and she has given a list of certain trees that are better than others, certain shrubs that are better than others, and I would like to encourage the planting of the ones that aren't going to become invasive. And then, we can see our vine squad, for instance, is spending plenty of time taking out vines of plants that were native to the area. So I would like to propose putting that in there, a list of what we would prefer. Because I know some of them, they're kind of like planting bamboo, that if you don't take care of it, and it will really overtake a garden. So are we allowed to do that in this resolution in order to still be a bee city? Because there are plenty of pollinator-friendly plants.
I would like to think so. It's not something that I think Sabrina would have discussed with them, but I don't see why not. Alternatively, rather than putting it in the resolution itself, it might be information that just could be pushed out by an advisory board on different platforms, newsletter. That information could just be disseminated separate from the resolution.
So if you take a look at subsection, 3C, it talks about the fact that the town creates a recommended locally native plant list to include wildflowers. Might we be able to incorporate it into that as an appendix of just recommended?
We could. I'm just wondering if we can go, I saw that, if we can go further than that and say ones that we're not recommending.
Well, isn't this something isn't this something the conservation board will be with Dennis,
Right.
Jill, kind of
Yes.
on top of managing? And so it would be no different to me than what we're doing townwide anyway when it comes to management of invasives and, encouraging planting of native species. So I would think that, the conservation board under Dennis's, town staff stewardship could manage that.
I would agree.
I think Dennis could. I think there are people with other expertise who are potentially not on the conservation board whose input I'd like to seek as well in this, to coordinate with Dennis. People who do this for a living.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we necessarily need to, if the resolution is the proposed form, I
That's
don't see how
fine.
it limits that.
That's fine. I just want to, but I would like to potentially put in here a few species that maybe we don't want to, or at least say here that we're going to include a list of not only recommended species, but ones that we don't recommend.
Well, we could add something to the end of the resolution tasking the conservation board with coming up with that list and pushing out the information. Does that work?
That's probably, I would think that would be a
Yeah.
better idea because.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a better idea.
Yeah, I defer to, I think the conservation board is perfectly capable of handling it. We can add whatever and consult with whomever, but I think they'll be on top of it. Dennis and team will be very much on top of it, but support whatever you want to do in that regard. I don't think it's necessary, but totally have no problem with it.
Okay, I think people do think it's necessary to put that in there, but I'm okay leaving it the way it is as long as we make sure to let the conservation board know and potentially add in here that we want them to do a list of ones that they don't recommend unless you really are an experienced gardener.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to all be on the same page about invasive species, and I would think that everyone has been talking about that. I know people on the Conservation Board are concerned about that, so I don't see why that should be controversial. So I would hope that we could put it in the resolution just to make sure, without having to rely on individuals who can come and go. But as long as we can get the information out there,
Yep.
fine.
And Ed, when this was first brought before us, they wanted us to amend our comprehensive plan. I'm assuming by this resolution, we do not have to do that, which I was not comfortable with. So this is sufficient.
That's correct.
Good. Okay.
Right, so the comprehensive plan already has goals and objectives that align perfectly
Yes.
with what the Bee City resolution is all about, so we've just made reference to those existing statements.
Perfect. Okay, then I have no further comments. Does anyone else?
So
Okay.
we're going to approve it tonight as is, or we're going to take and put a little caveat in there with a charge to
You
the
want to say something
board?
something like the Conservation Board is directed to develop and disseminate a list of species that should be avoided, something to that effect?
You want to do preferred and?
I
avoid?
said
Preferred and avoided.
Preferred and, okay.
Okay,
I'll mark up the resolution and I'll
Perfect.
pass it back up.
okay, thank you.
Great.
All right,
right.
moving on.
Moving right along, okay. The next item on the agenda is the resolution authorizing the execution of the First Amendment to the agreement to purchase real property regarding the Millwood Sidewalk project. This has had such a long and tortuous history. Really briefly, the sidewalk in Millwood is between 60 and 90% completed plans. What was holding us up was the Real Estate Division of New York State DOT, which required us to purchase a small portion of property from DeChico's Shopping Center to allow the proposed sidewalk to extend from Station Place around the corner up Route 100. Just for the board's edification, New York State DOT requires that any sidewalk be on DOT property. So we had to actually purchase the property from DeChico's. And there was a question as to how much it was going to be. Our original estimation was more than this. And anyway, we've settled. We're finally here. We're looking for the board's approval. It's actually less property than what the board approved some years ago. Mr. Santamaro, who owns DeChico's, is perfectly on board with it. He's been cooperative from the get-go. It's just been difficult and challenging working with New York State DOT real estate, but we're thrilled to be at this point, and the approval of this resolution will finally allow that project to go forward.
This has been a long time coming.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions about this, otherwise we'll be moving this forward. Okay, that's great, thank you. The next is the CityScape Master Communications Wireless Plan. And Ed,
I'm so excited about this.
yeah, do you want me to, you ready for it? You can,
I thought that was for the sidewalk.
What, it's, I can, it's an initiative that's being undertaken by an organization, a consultant, Cityscapes, and what they're doing for Bedford and
It's a county plan,
Well-
but it's for northern Westchester communities.
I was going to, they are doing a study with respect to areas where cell service is inadequate. They're also, as I understand it, trying to look at other siting issues, whether it's relating to historic resources, natural resources, and trying to optimize how those gaps in coverage could be best filled. They're doing that per contract right now with, like I said, Bedford, Town of Lewisboro, North Salem, Mount Kisco, Pound Ridge, Somers, and Yorktown. We learned about it, and the county's part in this is that the county's has a contract, an IMA with Bedford, where the county is reimbursing Bedford for the cost of doing all of this work, and it's not insignificant. So we were able to persuade the county to add the town to the scope of work that's already being done for these other communities. And the county is picking up the cost, which is almost $25,000, so thank you, Westchester County.
Yes.
And we're hopeful that the town's going to be added then to this scope.
So I am so happy that we were able to get added to this, and a lot of kudos to Jill and Ed for this. I think the fact that, we have a lot of issues with cell service, as we hear from residents constantly, and we know from our own personal experiences. So to be able to be a part of this, I'm not sure why we were left off initially, but I'm glad that we were now able to get ourselves added to this study. I think it's going to be very important in helping us to figure out gaps in coverage, and more importantly, how we can rectify those. And the fact that Westchester will pay the $25,000 to allow us to participate in this study is wonderful. Thank you to them. And I think that there will be a big impact, not right away, but eventually, to make sure that this gets done.
just one more thing I want to mention, and it's actually my mistake. I thought we were entering into an IMA with Westchester County, but as it turns out, there's actually nothing for the town to sign or approve at this point. So we'll just wait and see, what documentation Bedford might need from us, if any. Okay. Yay. And I'm going to turn the last major topic over to you, Ed, which is the local law concerning the event signs.
Right, so there's a red line version in the packet tonight, and I'll go over the revisions. This is a product of discussions with Tom DePole, Bob Cioli, Chris also assisted and helped shape this revised language. We have changed a couple of things, and I'm just looking for the draft.
It's on page 90 of the packet.
Thank you. Okay, so the real action is happening on 91 of the packet, which is subsection 10E. And that's where we're picking up some of the revisions that the board had requested the last time we looked at this with respect to the length of time which a temporary sign could be posted, the size and maximum height of the sign has been tweaked in this section. We've also incorporated the idea that a owner-occupant of residential property can place a temporary sign out on their lawn near a roadway without concern as to exactly where their property line ends and the right-of-way starts. So long as you're now 5 feet off the edge of the pavement, you're good. And
Unless there's a safety concern, in which case you obviously have to abide by that.
right, and that's a case-by-case situation. You know, there could be a grade change, there could be a curve. You know, so safety always overrides. And if there's something site-specific, then the sign needs to come back to a place where it doesn't obstruct sight lines.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 feet is a distance that Tom and Bob are comfortable with as a general rule. There's another add at the end with respect to not attaching signs to trees, utility poles, bridges, and traffic signs. But that's essentially it. There's another change in the definition of a temporary sign, and that's really picking up some of the content that had been in subsection E and just making the definition section a little bit more robust.
Anyone have thoughts?
Yes, I have a few thoughts, and I have these thoughts as a result of speaking to people as well. So, and I know that we touched on this prior to your redlining, but this new law does not allow for any signs other than a temporary sign connected to an event with a time limit. Is that right? So you couldn't have a Black Lives Matter sign, like a
You could on your own
Horace
property.
Greeley grad.
You can have that on your own property. We are not saying what you can't have on your, we're not prohibiting what you have on your own property.
Right, so can you put one of those signs at the 5-foot marker?
On your
Because, you know, what's being addressed here is just temporary signs. So is it excluding those signs, is my question.
There's another section of the town code that would permit a sign on residential
Okay.
property if it's
All right.
on residential property. And that's, if it's a message sign or something other than a temporary sign, you're still okay, but you just need to be sure not to put it in the right of way.
Okay, so it would have to be, you know, at the 5-foot mark.
Well, it could be 5
essentially.
foot, that's always gonna be a little bit, case-specific in terms of.
Right, because some properties are almost right up to the property line, and some of them have walls, some have, you know, steep slopes and bushes, so,
The thought was, well, nothing should be right on the road because
Yeah.
I mean, I saw issues too where cars are driving by and basically hitting them on the road. But this
sightline.
is merely an amendment, so it's not taking the place of the remainder of the law. It's only amending these sections
This is
that
only
we're
amending the
discussing.
temporary sign
Correct.
law, it's not superseding everything else.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you, yeah.
No, we encourage
Yes, okay.
personal expression.
I thought so, but since this is all that was put in front of us, I just had to clarify.
This is really only to get to, the signs that, we have political signs, we have signs, the Greeley baseball team is gonna have a game next week. People want to be able to put those out. I just got calls about that this weekend, actually. Really just to give guidance as to temporary signs that are
I
gonna be out
understand,
there.
yeah. It's not meant to eliminate the other signs.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And the signs also, I forget, they have to be down within, what did we say, 3 days
3 days.
following an event?
Read it.
Yeah,
Right.
so that would allow the farmer's market to put out a sign, et cetera.
Yes.
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
No, I think this reflects what we discussed.
Okay. Anything from you guys up on the wall?
No,
All right.
I spoke with Ed about it, so I'm good.
Perfect. Okay, so we can move on. Is that just some administrative items, Jill?
Yes, they have a payment of claims, adoption of minutes. We've got authorization to attend a conference from DPW. We've got authorization to renew a service contract with DNR. Again, we don't normally bring contracts that we have for service to the board. It's just that this one in particular is right under $10,000. It's the service for DNR, which is just an unfortunate
It's a terrible
acronym, but
name.
they're a wonderful company, and they make sure that all the sound equipment is working at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, and also our consultant here for, you could see that Carrie's been working with the new touchpad side and the improvements that have been made on the sound in this room as well. So they're our consultant. Let's see, and the last is the resolution authorizing a Sustainable Westchester Memorandum of Understanding for the participation in the short-term Westchester Power Extension Contract for Con Ed service territory. And that's.
And also, you have the roof
Oh.
and the intergenerate license.
Sorry. Yeah, so let's just talk about Intergenerate Garden for just a moment. So we entered into a contract with Intergenerate a number of years ago, and they run our Millwood Garden, which has been a terrific success. Last year, as an offshoot of the CRE, there was another garden created at the Wagon Road Camp, also under the auspices of Intergenerate. So now the town actually has two gardens operating. Last year, the participants who were working on the Wagon Road garden were under our boards and commissions umbrella. Since they're no longer under that umbrella, council thought it best for us to take and actually amend the original Intergenerate agreement to cover both the Millwood site and the Wagon Road site, just so that our volunteers who are there are protected under insurance for Intergenerate, and that's really just about it. It's just the insurance, right?
We also picked up hours of operation,
Oh,
some
right,
other
hours of
very
operation.
basic.
Yeah, credentials. And we have continued to work with Susie Novak, who's been a wonderful partner with us. And they're ready to go and they're ready to plant. So we were really thrilled that, Ed was able to draft it quickly. We forwarded it to them. Their council looked at it. They were fine with it. And so we're thrilled to be able to put it back on the agenda. And last but not least, the roof. In order for us to go out and create proper bid specifications for the roof at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, we need a consultant. And Watsky is actually the same concern we hired to assist us with the roof at the community center. And so we're hoping to hire them to assist us in creating bid documents. They would then take and evaluate the bids and also do the construction inspection for us during the course of the contract.
Jill, could we have them also look into the possibility of putting solar on the roof there?
Yes, when they take and they prepare the bid specifications.
Because
So
it's a big roof. It would be,
A huge
it would
roof,
be
yes.
quite interesting if that was a possibility.
Yep. If you recall, we actually did that with the community center as well, but it was a smaller and
It's
disjointed
small
roof.
and it's in between buildings. This is much more open.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a great suggestion. Great.
All right.
I think that's all I have.
So anything else? I don't think so.
Oh, thank you.
Jill, anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay.
Just
So can I have a motion to adjourn the work session and open up the town board meeting?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, welcome now to our town board meeting. And we are almost on time, like only a couple
exciting.
minutes late. This is very exciting. It is April 5th, 2022, and it is our first meeting in April. So I would like to see, Jill, do you have any announcements you'd like to make?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds, I'm sorry. Yes. Actually, I should let you make this announcement, so nobody's mad at me. The 2022 town and county tax bills have been mailed. I know it's everybody's favorite day. If you, as opposed to your bank, are responsible for your property taxes, the 2022 town and county tax bills were mailed the end of last week. The tax payment is due without penalty on or before Monday, May 2nd, because the 30th falls on a weekend. And if there's any questions, call the tax office, 238-4773. We will be sending out a code red tomorrow to the general community. And just a reminder to the board that our next meeting is going to be on April 19th. We don't have a meeting next week due to the school break. And the meeting on the 19th will start with a joint meeting with the Village Board of Pleasantville at the Millwood Water Treatment Plant. As you're aware, Pleasantville is our partner in this shared service, and we hold annual meetings to catch up on the state of the water plant. After that in-person meeting, the first in 2 years, we will be returning to the Assembly Room at Town Hall to complete our meeting. I actually think, I'm not sure if we're actually in the Assembly Room or in the conference rooms, I'll have to check, but we'll be back here at Town Hall afterwards.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And with regard to the taxes, we should just note that the town board is very constrained in its ability to grant any waivers of late penalties. We will accept post-dated checks, so if you are going to be away or unsure if you can make it on time, you can actually give a check dated the date it's due, and we will hold it for you, and then you can be assured to be timely. Just wanted to put that out there. All right, I am going to waive my supervisor's report, although I do want to thank the Rec Department for putting on a very fun Easter egg hunt on Saturday. The weather turned out nice, a little chilly, but it was sunny, and there were a lot of kids there. It was actually a lot of fun. So thank you for putting that on, and I'm hoping we're going to have more such community building events in the future. For Community Corner, I have a few things, all birthdays this week. First, I put it in our newsletter, but I did not have time to announce it, that Chrissy Papes, who has a relative sitting in this room, turned 11 on March 29th, so we wanted to wish her a very, very happy birthday. Her name was on the board, but we wanted to make sure to publicly give her a shout out. Dylan Lefkowitz also turned 11 on the 3rd of April, so happy birthday to Dylan. Eleanor Troy, she will turn 6 tomorrow, April 6th, so I hope you go look at your name on the board. Ben Shaw is going to be turning 14 on April 18th. I'm announcing that one so early because we don't have a meeting before then. And Robert Bruno has a big birthday. He is going to turn 90 on April 8th.
Wow.
So I hope he will see his name on the sign too. So happy birthday to everybody. And Again, I love this part of our meeting. If you have any birthdays, anniversaries, job promotions, anything you want to announce, we are happy to announce them to the whole community. So just send me an email at communitycorner@mynewcastle.org. All right, anything else in your administrator's report? Okay, so let's move right on to our presentation
And right on cue.
with Art for Mankind, which
deckers are
I
here.
love. And there they are with a nice piece of art behind you. So, you guys have been here before. I've heard you speak. I don't know if the rest of the town board has. Some of us are new. So one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is art and culture throughout the community. So we wanted to bring you back to sort of talk about what you can offer the community and be able to answer any questions from anyone in the audience. So take it
Sure,
away.
Thank you. So we are very excited to be back. Thank you for inviting us. And yes, indeed, we would be delighted to present again what we could offer to the community as a series of murals. I don't know if you can see. Can you see our screen if we do screen sharing?
We can see your screen.
Okay, great. So maybe I can share screen. Thibaut, you wanna?
Sure.
Okay, let me share screen. Share. Here we go. Up. Sorry. Voila. So let me know if you see our screen.
We just see a white screen right now.
Okay. The screen sharing is paused. How can it be paused?
Carrie, can they screen share?
Resume share. Right here.
I'll resume share. Here we go.
Oh. We can see your mouse. We just can't see anything on your screen.
And now?
We see a little pencil. Oh, and now your mouse. But there's still,
Okay. I
Did
don't
you
know why
s-
it's not sharing. It
did you
doesn't want to share.
select the correct thing to share?
Jill, do we make a home for this on the website?
Might not be authorized, I think, to share because it's kind of pausing each time we share.
Presentation?
You're authorized, you're approved.
Strange.
Why don't you stop screen sharing and then try to do it again?
Right. Good idea.
Okay, you're back. So make sure when you do share screen that you're clicking on the right thing that you want to share. It's still a white screen.
Is this the same presentation from the original meeting?
Correct.
Yes, it is. So
So
maybe
I
you have
think-
it on your side.
I think fortunately, I believe when you came initially, we housed it somewhere on the website, the town
We
website.
did.
That could be great, yeah.
I think we were all in attendance.
Hold on, we
I
think
saw
we
it,
can
yeah.
find it. Hang on.
So strange.
You're gonna paint everything white, just whitewash the town?
That was not the objective, but
Why not?
Interesting, I don't know.
Gonna change pricing
one
there.
concept. Why not?
Let me just put it in a PDF, worst case scenario. Share it while you
Stop sharing now.
stop share. Thank you.
You want to be able to come out.
That's a good idea. Let me know if you find it, otherwise I'm gonna try to put in a PDF and maybe send it to Jill.
Technology is good until it's not. What's the name of the presentation?
The name of the presentation should be Chappaqua Artwork, November 2021.
Did you hear that, Carrie?
So we're sending to Jill the PDF by email. At the same time,
Oh, I can send it. I just get the email of Lorraine. Okay.
or Lauren, if you want, yeah.
Yeah, you can send it to me and I can do it if you'd like.
Okay, let me take it because I just compressed it. Here we go. Voila. Done.
It should be gone your way.
Carrie found it.
Yeah, send it also to Jill so everybody has it, just in case. Okay.
So we know, a few neighboring municipalities, specifically Larchmont and New Rochelle, have utilized these murals, and really they're beautiful in their towns. I know you'll speak to it, but I want to just give an introduction. Oh, we have it here now.
Yep.
7.
I'm not sure it.
It says Street Art for Mankind, Art for
It's not the
Social.
right one. I don't think so.
This
That's
is
the
more
wrong
like of a
one?
generic one, but the one I just sent by email is really on Chappaqua. I mean, this one we can go through it if you want, because this is more to explain a little bit about
What
the
we do.
background and the other murals that we've been doing.
Whichever you prefer, it's your presentation.
Lauren, I haven't gotten it yet. Have you received it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Carrie, I can do it.
Thanks, Lauren.
Lauren, oh,
Here we go.
there we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your help. All right.
Perfect.
So basically the idea, I don't know, Thibaut, but basically you want to talk about it maybe?
But the concept we had proposed was actually based on the fact that actually so be the change art walks, so with themes actually and key elements in it, but maybe start with the key elements that you actually have here is, so the idea is to build a spectacular and inspiring art walk which is made of big large murals in the community so that we connect together. So we were proposing to have 6+ masterpieces to be able to connect and have people walk around the city town, and be able to have everybody enjoying the art, but at the same time help develop foot traffic. So it has, as it says just afterwards, the capacity to reactivate and revitalize actually foot traffic in the downtown Chappaqua. That's what we've been seeing across the cities where we've installed those art walks.
Yeah.
And it also helps to bring and bond actually the community together. Why? Because we will be talking about values and themes which are dear to Chappaqua and actually mean something to the community. So the idea is to create a conversation in the streets as people enjoy art at the same time.
One quick thing, just to interrupt. I also want to make sure that if we're doing this, we're going to have artwork in Millwood as well, because we're all one Newcastle. So while you cannot walk currently
that might
from
be
Chappaqua to
connecting in a different
Millwood,
way.
it's I'd want to have maybe a larger art walk / drive.
Sure, why not?
A drive,
That's feasible.
an art drive. So
Or
the
bike ride.
interesting part also of that event is that because you have multiple, artists and spectacular artists, it's an opportunity to meet and greet for the people of Chappaqua, for the kids, for artists also at one point, and it's usually we have the production with an inauguration at the end with a celebration actually with the people of Chappaqua, then walking in the streets the last day, kind of an inauguration where the artists would be there talking about their art. And it's an opportunity also to activate those walls and have other forms of art participating and displaying what they're capable of doing. Hence the last point of the key elements. So in the themes that we had proposed, and that's again, it's a reflection for you to think about and more to kind of create a conversation with you guys to understand where you want to replace it. So it's both local and global challenges that we had imagined at that time reflecting.
So yeah, so basically the themes we had imagined were really around the values. So this is, for example, but this is more thought, but to have some of the murals around environment and the planet. So that's some of the themes that we were thinking about protecting our planet, whether it's green energy, ecosystem restoration, climate change, sustainable clean transportation, protecting our oceans, or water for all. That's some of the key themes that everybody talks about right now when it comes to the protecting the planet.
Which could also enable us to highlight all the good stuff that actually is done in Chappaqua locally, in whether it's for sustainable transportation or in any of those areas actually in general.
Yeah, the idea is also to link actually the themes to what means to what is meaningful to the community. Then the idea was also to work on another part of the theme, which is really inclusivity. Sorry. So women and girls in science is an important theme, because you know how STEM is important. That could be something we could be working on if it is important for your educational school system. Also, gender equality obviously is a very key themes, and sometimes, you know, here we made it relate to the UN, but also sometimes and to the SDGs. But sometimes it relates also to people who've been living, for example, in Chappaqua, or there can be a lot of ways to relate generation equality to what matters to your community. Zero discrimination is also a key theme that can be talked about. Youth standing against racism could be one of them as well. And then there is this notion of building a fairer, healthier world, and this is about access to quality health service. So that's really like I would say suggestion of themes. This one are more about the SDGs, and we can have themes more again related to the community. That's really food for thought. So this one's about equality. Then we have other themes such as the fight against hunger, with the theme of zero hunger, reducing food waste, quality education for all. And we know that in our communities, in Westchester County, education is really something very important for the community and for the parents. Stopping child labor, this is maybe less related to the community, but that's a key theme, globally, and an important subject is protecting children everywhere. Diversity also is key and can be something you want to talk about.
Again, just to explain, so all that was because the original concept was about creating an art walk, which would be called Be the Change, where people can act and, make a stand on values that will relate globally and locally, but we could see it and combine it actually differently if of course you saw it in a different perspective. That was to create the conversation.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of themes which are mainly, I would say, around that if we go to the next
Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
And
So human rights is another angle with freedom of speech, leaving no one behind, and peace and justice for all, and of course sharing the human spirit, which is also actually an SDG too. So I'm going to go very fast probably on those themes because they're worth probably another conversation with you guys on the ones you want to really reflect on.
If you want to do an SDG artwork on that.
So sports is cultural diversity, combating human trafficking, which is also one of the roots, I would say, of Street Art for Mankind. That's the main fight we were born out of. Digital transformation for the greater good, and be a change maker, which could be indeed reflecting on heroes locally and globally that actually we want to highlight, or you guys want to highlight. So we had originally in our presentation also proposed and scoped a few walls. So again, that was a proposal based on what we saw. The little stars that you see here, so they're all focusing on the main street and that area that you see, and trying to connect walls as much as possible. So the stars that you see on the map is where the walls that we've scoped and that you will see individually afterwards are actually located. So you have quite a few. There's not a lack of walls, I would say, and that's a good thing. Then afterwards is deciding which one appeals the most and probably works the most, and if we have to connect other locations, also identifying the walls in those locations too, to make them work together. So, I mean, we can go through every single wall identified, but you probably are going to recognize the images as we go through. They're all highlighted with a pink, I would say, area that identifies the wall itself. That would be a great one, for instance, for a 3D muralist, because that we could use the shape of it to actually create an effect out of that wall. which is just outside the station. So that's below the bridge, coming out from the station on each side. That's an opportunity also for 2 walls, even though it's a bit dark. What we would have to caution here is mainly, I would say, pigeons or birds sitting on top of it. That would have to be protected, because that would be not good for the murals and nuisance for the murals themselves. It's more of an experience side on that part, to avoid that part if we do decide to put murals there. So that's, again, we're progressing, I would say, from the station inside the city. That would be an opportunity of wall. And on top here, if we reverse the camera versus the previous wall. And here you have actually the 2 sides of that little alley that connect from the station, actually on right there. So you see the second one on the other side that we could only picture from Google, I would say, on that view, which is a large one. And again, I don't know if you want to go through every single wall, I would say, of it, because you probably know them better, but I think there's quite a amount.
Maybe we can, yeah, there's maybe a lot. Maybe you want to just put them like this so people can see them.
So those walls are interesting because they're connected to the parking. So as people park and go back to the businesses in front, it's interesting to have actually those walls also connect.
I see the Bank of America building. I wonder how many people will be upset to lose that beautiful, vibrant color. It wasn't an issue when it was painted that color, so I don't know why it would be upset now.
So while you're going through these, let me ask you a question. My concern with putting these on privately owned property that the town does not own is that if that person wants to knock down their building and put something else up, I would hate to lose a mural. So what have you done, or how have you sort of dealt with that issue in the past?
So for wall owners, usually they do, and that's correct. You're saying we do give them a waiver. We're respectful of that part, that they own that building, and at one point they do need to either repair it or sell it. So they could be actually inclined at one point to have to remove, I would say, the artwork itself. It is a risk. We have on private buildings waivers for owners each time. None of them has removed it to date, which is, I'm going to cross fingers on that part. So it's also identifying with the wall owners, the one that are really motivated, I would say, for having those walls afterwards. You know, if the wall itself degrades or has an issue, they need to intervene to repair. And that is obviously something we need them to be able to have the right to do on their own wall.
And do you ever mount wood or some sort of canvas to the sides of privately owned buildings so that if something did need to be done, that could be removed at some point and the mural saved?
No, we don't, because there's 2 issues. There's many issues actually to that great idea, which is not always a great idea. Is first to fix those elements, you are going to be intrusive versus the building. That means you're going to have to drill holes in that building, create basically potential water entries or whatever, or so issues with that wall that you have behind it. So you do not really want to add something which is just going to have to attach to that building. Then you have to pass a certain number of codes. Of course, in Chappaqua, it's less than Florida, where you have the HVAC zone. That means hurricanes to withstand, and the rest you still have to withstand wind and the rest. So it can come pretty costly at one point, and not always a good idea, I would say, versus the wall itself and its integrity. So that's why we walk away usually from that. And the artists are not really keen on that, because that means also for great artists that you have a capacity for someone to come and dismantle and go away with it. And that, if it's, famous artists, that does happen.
That makes them nervous.
When you say a waiver, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean a commitment by a property owner to keep it for a certain period of time? I'm not entirely sure what that means.
We do have a call it a wall owner agreement, where they do commit, I would say, to that wall, and then in exchange we do give them a waiver if they need to sell or if they need to repair, to actually intervene on their wall. And if that means at one point damaging the artwork, that means removing completely the artwork. They don't leave it, partially defaced or whatever. And that's indeed a waiver they do have, and that they need basically because they wouldn't be allowed otherwise by law to actually touch it. So that's important to keep peace on both sides of the aisle.
And we have it signed also by the artist so that everybody is relaxed. And this is what we call an artwork release. I mean, with what happened with 5 Points a few years ago, it's good, that everybody knows what to expect from each other.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is renovations, repairs, or tear downs obviously is one thing, but what if someone just decides, you know what, I don't want this mural on my wall anymore? Is the contract enforceable, or has that ever been an issue, or how does your legal analysis impact that in terms of like the quid pro quo for them committing to that?
It's legitimate, and you can protect, I would say, against everything. So our decision in time has been more to be respectful of that part and to say that virtually we would take that risk of them having the capacity to remove it for another reason if they really needed to.
This never happened actually so far.
Usually people do like the murals they have, so they want to keep
I would
it.
think,
And they're part of the process of
But
the
it is a possibility,
validation.
yeah.
They approve the sketch as well. I mean, when we work, we work on the film together, then there's a sketch that is produced, and they have to approve the sketch. So if they have an issue with the artist or the sketch, they don't wait to get the mural done to tell us.
So, and again, you can see it in many ways. You can reinforce that part. There are cities that ask us to do so.
More years.
And to increase either number of years where it's compulsory or indeed the reasons why they can remove or not. By respect for wall owners in general, we do like to keep that open and trust that they come in with the right spirit when they donate their wall, mainly.
I think
If that answers your question.
I think we addressed this last time, and I don't recall how in depth we got into it. I don't know the cost. I don't know if there's grants available, but there's also the possibility of creating a wall. And when I say that, it's a little above my pay grade as to what that would entail. But we have this big dumpster at our town hall that's surrounded by this wood structure. We have a fence that's adjacent to a parking lot, which is adjacent to the train tracks, which, that no one's going there to look through the chain link fence. I think it's a chain link fence there, right? That's right adjacent to the train tracks, which really could be made into something that would draw people to that area, and it would connect the train station, town hall, those alleyways would all sort of be connected to each other. But I may be talking a little bit out of school because I don't know the cost if it's prohibitive. I don't know if there's grants available for things like this. But there's opportunities, even if we can't use private properties, to use our public spaces, but also create some public spaces.
Yeah, one place we talked about for that would be when you're driving down King Street and you basically, instead of driving straight to the train tracks, that would be a great place right against that wall in the train tracks to be able to put a big wall that could be painted on.
So, but
I mean, why not having a big wall? The only thing is the size, the height. I mean, you don't want something that is very low because it's not going to give the impact that you would be looking for.
I think we need to see probably a picture of the wall to tell you what we can do with it, the material actually of the wall itself, the height. So if we can compose something that would make sense artistically also for people to come and see.
Well, we could work with you on that as to the best material, how to build that, and then, we have town engineers and very skilled people here who could help build that wall.
That's a good idea.
I think it's fabulous. I still think it's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I saw your presentation the first time, and I thought it was wonderful and exciting, and I still do. And I want to thank you for coming back to present to us again. And I think it'll bring a lot of vibrancy to the town, and I love the fact that the art calls for participation on the part of the viewer. It calls for action. And, who knows, it could be coupled with a project for kids on what they could do with the message of these particular walls. I mean, there's so many possibilities that, that you can jump off of that would create a synergy and enthusiasm in town. So I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. And we didn't talk about it, but we have this app called Behind the Wall. So when people scan the murals, it prompts them information about the artist, about the story, And now we just actually added even AR effect. So we could even add that where people look and through their phone, then they see something jumping and then they can share.
And if I may invite everybody that's listening, so in 2 weeks' time now, 3 weeks' time, we're starting the season 2 of New Rochelle, which is not very far. So you might want to come and see 10 artists painting at the same time from April 22nd to April 30th with an inauguration on the May 1st. So if you guys are around, that's a good opportunity to see how it's done and how it's produced and the rest, and an opportunity to come and meet with us, I would say, live with some pretty spectacular artists actually this time in New Rochelle also.
Yes, we would love that.
Yes, that would be great.
That sounds great. And could I ask, are the themes similar in New Rochelle to the ones that we're contemplating?
Some are similar, I would say, but the concept is a bit different, I would say. But yeah, some are similar. Diversity. There's some elements that you find everywhere that people want to talk about. I would say then it's how you link to both global and local, where you really make it yours. But again, we could imagine, we're working with Houston and doing a series of murals in Houston end of May, and that's again a completely different approach, I would say, on the themes themselves. So it's really about
what you want to say.
Yeah,
it's what you want to communicate. What you want people to think when they think about Chappaqua. So do they want to think like about a social justice city, and then you talk about the UN SDGs, or do they want to think about what makes your community unique? And could be really different type of themes.
Yeah, I definitely want to get the town involved. And so taking these overarching themes and then having a survey or community engagement to figure out which of those sort of sub-themes we're then going to authorize to be painted. I love that idea. And then I'd like to also get our students involved, not on the walls the artists are going to paint, but as you just showed us, we have a lot of walls. So while we may have professional artists through you painting on some of the larger walls, we can also tap some of our very talented art students and residents to paint other walls.
That's a good idea too.
Yep, something we do also.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So yes.
I do think we're at an inflection point as we look at opportunities for development. We've talked a lot about what's the brand of our town, and, the murals should connect to some of those concepts that we're developing. So I think we need to look at this in a macro level as well.
Yes, good idea.
All right, so what is your timing? When is, I heard you say the next round is in April in New Rochelle. So how does it generally work? How much lead time do you need? We obviously want to try to get some grants, et cetera. So how is your timing? What's your lead time for the time we approve it to the time it's painted?
I mean, usually 6 months would be a good time between the time where you approve it and the time that we start producing. And we produce generally between April and October. So
Or beginning of November. I would
or
say.
beginning of November, yes. So we could so it really depends when we can get the green light, but 6 months, 5-6 months is a good thing.
Permits, the rest, it depends really on a lot of process you probably have locally that we don't know yet. But yeah, it's a good assumption. Maybe, some cities it goes faster to 3 months, I would say, but that depends mainly, I would say, on you. On our side, by the time we have the green light, the next work is making sure we have the themes
And the artists.
and the walls, and based on the themes and the walls, the right artist behind it. And then starting working on sketches, and then production is going to be in 7 to 10 days, and we're done. We produce fast.
Okay, sounds great. All right, anyone else have any questions? Anyone in the public? Okay, well, thank you so much, and we will definitely be back in touch. I think we're all excited about this idea, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I do want to come to New Rochelle in April, and I will also be in Houston the end of May, so maybe I'll
End of
That's a
May,
good-
fine.
That's good, then.
Yeah,
then you
we're
can see it
producing
too.
end of May. Yeah,
So
Houston will be crazy.
in between, if you're in Washington, we're doing a big one in Washington, and then
Beginning of
pretty visible
May.
for Zero Hunger and the World Food Program. So we could give you a more agenda if you want.
And we have another one end of June in New York for the
Perfect.
decade on safety, road safety.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great,
Take
thanks.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I love that idea.
Yes, I do too.
And I know we're reaching out to Larchmont and some other neighboring communities to talk about, how they finance this and to see what some options might be to obtain grants, et cetera. And just, God bless you, be assured this would not just be in Chappaqua. I want to make sure that, we would do in Millwood as well. All right, so let's move to public comment, new business. Anyone? Okay, Carrie, is there anyone online? Okay.
We have someone in person, though.
Oh, we do? Oh,
Sorry. I was,
can you state your name, please, sir?
absolutely. My name is John Ehrlich, and I wasn't going to chat today, but the discussion on the Bee City, it's a wonderful idea to do, but what I was going to recommend, as far as getting the types of plants that are ideal and the types of plants that should be avoided, seems to me that it would be for an annual brochure that could be published and made widely available, and also available to some extent online so that people can get it. Because we not only have to share it with homeowners and renters, we do have to share it with the various groundskeepers, landscape architects, and to incorporate everybody into this, because it would serve two functions then. Not only would be officially be city, but it would really help everybody to be well with this kind of a project. And I recommend that also that you consider chatting with Victoria Alzapidi, who would be a wonderful resource to discuss the varieties, and that should be restricted or encouraged, as well as communicating to others. And the other part of it, then after that is done, you publish maybe a small brochure, could be 2 to 4 pages. It's not a big deal. We could also chat with the local media, because what would be good for us would be good for others. So I can very much see the Examiner getting involved and other local resources, so that you can properly get the word out. That may be easier than the restrictions that you on the town board have voiced. So just a thought. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you,
Excuse me.
John.
And having that information available digitally would be a sustainable
Absolutely.
approach to that as well.
All right, Carrie, anyone online?
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, I have a question about this proposed sign law.
Yes.
And if I may, ask Ed a couple questions. Ed, I heard you talk about I'm going to call them messaging signs, but these messaging signs can include statements about matters of great civic or social importance, but they can also include signs like home of a proud, Greeley 2022 graduate, signs that aren't really tied to a specific event, at least not a specific event in the terms of a graduate 30 days off. I've seen signs out for the whole school year, as they should be. Anyway, so I have a question about messaging signs not tied to an event. Ed, don't they have to be behind the lot line, the private lot line of the property still?
Yes.
So when you read the law, the plain reading of the law is that temporary event signs are getting preferential treatment over messaging signs. I don't believe that's your intent, but that's how the law is phrased right now. And by that I mean, on the road I live on, the right of way goes back 25 feet off the center line. 25 feet. It's in Norway spruces on my property. If I'm behind that lot line with a messaging sign, nobody's going to see it. And I'm not alone. There's properties like that all over town. Yet I have a garden that goes up to the road, as do many other people. I take care of that property that goes up to the road. I do not think it's appropriate for temporary event signs to have preferential treatment over messaging signs. Because the temporary event signs can be in that right of way. Also, the temporary event signs are allowed to be much bigger than the messaging signs. The messaging signs under the current language are still 2 square feet. And the temporary event signs, I think, are 9 square feet. I think that's what it says, 3 by 3. So as I said, I don't think that was the intention, but that's what the law says.
So, the point of this law was we were amending it to deal with the temporary signs. It does seem that there are probably areas potentially of the remainder of the sign law that we should make sure to look at. This part was really meant to just deal with the temporary signs. Certainly, messaging signs, as you may have heard earlier, Vicky asked the question too. We are not intending to limit the messaging signs that you can have on your own property. You can certainly do that. But I hear what you're saying, and maybe we should look at it. Certainly, I believe the sign should all be allowed to be the same size. That seems easy.
I think this is a drafting issue, but
I don't think it's a drafting issue relating to the temporary signs, but I do think that you're correct. We should go back and look at the remainder of the law as currently in effect and see what needs to be potentially changed there.
Right, that's what I mean by a drafting issue. The language that applies to messaging signs, that language is remaining unchanged as of tonight. Okay, I don't think that was the intent, but you can't. It's got to be looked at again. In my opinion, messaging signs are actually more important under free speech than any other signs, just about, because they're not commercial. They're not roofers or even political campaigns. They're Black Lives Matter signs, they're Greeley Senior signs, they're not-for-profit signs. There's a lot of messaging signs out there, and they should be given the same level of treatment as these temporary event signs. That would be my strong recommendation.
I agree. I think the only difference, in my view, would be that here we're allowing temporary event signs to be in some instances on public property, so that let's say the farmer's market can put out a sign, whereas we don't necessarily want messaging signs to be all over town.
Well, I'm really just confining my comments to the right-of-way that is adjacent to that is in people's front yards. We all think it's our yard. Yeah. Whether your right-of-way is 15 feet, 5 feet, or non-existent. We all think our yards run down to the road. Basically, that's what I'm talking about. And if somebody wants to plant any sort of free speech sign, as long as it's not a dangerous sign, in their front yard, they should be allowed to do so, in my opinion. I lean towards
Ed,
very much towards free speech.
No, I hear you, and I think everyone on this board agrees with the premise of free speech and that should all be allowed. So, Ed, could you take a look at some of the conflicting provisions that are in the law that weren't proposed to be changed and make some suggestions as to what should be changed here, along with, Tom and, okay, perfect. Thank you.
And it also helps in the sense that it's up to each of us individually, to make our decision about what goes in our front lawn. So that's different from the triangle, and that's different from. I know the right of way is public land. I understand that, but I'm talking about front yards where we each should make our decision what we want to display there and what we want to say to the public, and we should be allowed to do it, whether it's political or messaging or something else, and that's all I'm talking about tonight is front yards, for lack of a better word. And, it is true also, I'm telling you, it's true that I personally think 5 feet is too far back. There are many people who have bushes and fences and everything with they may be in the right of way. I assume they are because I see them all over town. But you know, these people should be able to express themselves too. I mean, their
So-
fences.
Maggie, I will say that I was advocating for 3 feet, but our building department strongly believes in, I think we got them back from 10 to 5, that,
Under what idea?
well, that there can be safety issues, and I've seen issues too, where sometimes they're too close, and cars have run into them, things like that. So.
Well, no car's going to hit a sign that's 10 feet back. No car's going to hit a sign that's 3 feet. If the edge of the sign is 3 feet back from the pavement, no car's going to hit that. I mean, it's
It's not about hitting it. It's not about hitting it. I mean, it's also about sight lines and turns, and Tom can speak to that. But I mean, I totally appreciate your point, Maggie. No, and I don't think anyone's expecting someone to hit a sign. I think it's about sight lines, and if you're turning a corner and a sign is close enough to the edge, it could become a visibility issue. I think that's the issue.
Well, I heard Tom say
And a
in prior
distraction
meeting-
as well, potentially.
Well, I heard Tom say in a prior meeting that cars were hitting him, so that's why I mentioned that.
Tom,
So,
any
you know-
thoughts?
We have had instances where the signs were too close to the road and cars did collide with them. And now I have this loose sign that's all over the road, which is a potential safety hazard. And like Christian said, the line of sight is our primary concern. We have a lot of grade changes in the town, and the visibility can be poor. And we have to prohibit, not being able to see correctly when you come to an intersection.
Well, I mean, I hear your view, Tom, but, a lot of intersections are not, I mean, a lot of intersections are right-of-ways. I don't know what to tell you. Like, the intersection of my road, there's no private persons claiming the property at the intersections, basically. But, our mailboxes are within 5 feet. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I have trees within 5 feet. I mean, it seems to be an unusually far distance off the pavement. So, and also, they can't be more than 3. The law is drafted for the event sign says it can't be more than 36 inches off the ground. 36 inches, all right? So is that really going to?
Yeah, Maggie, just so you know, I actually measured the 36 inches, and I think it's reasonable. Measure it and see what you think. And I also measured the 5 feet because I wanted to see how far back, that was. It's significantly shorter than I am. And it's I hear what you're saying. We need to balance everyone's right to free speech with making sure everyone is safe as well. I thought this does, hit a nice compromise here, but we can certainly look at it a little more, but go out and measure and see
I
what
did.
realistically it is.
I was all over town measuring, actually, so I know what I'm talking about because I dealt with these signs being taken, and I was measuring right-of-ways. So I know how far up a hillside a right-of-way can go, and so that's my experience. And now we're talking about less than the right-of-way, we're 5 or 10 feet. But again, there's lots of when I said 36 inches, the top of a lawn sign is 36 inches off the ground. How is that going to interfere with a car's sight distance? I understand there are grade changes and there's hillsides, but there's a lot of bushes and everything else. 36 inches is not 5 feet off the ground is what I'm saying, or 6 feet off the ground. And so this is my point. I think this is needlessly complicated. And, I think it should be a simple law that should stake out, put messaging signs on the same plane as a temporary event signs on your front lawn. And I think that, I'm not making the decision on the distance back from the road, but that 5 feet doesn't make sense to me. Perhaps you could put into the law that if there's an obstacle, like a fence or a line of bushes, which there are a lot. I drove around looking at things to make sure I wasn't misremembering. Maybe people can lay the lawn sign flat against that obstacle, and that way it's not sticking out. It's parallel to the road instead of perpendicular to the road. and give
May I
them that
s-
option.
May I suggest that, because we're not voting on this right now, may I suggest that maybe you email some of your suggestions to the town boards, because some of them are very valid suggestions, so that we can discuss them further, and certainly with you. But I think that may be more efficient, and you have a lot that you've said, which, again, some of it I think is fair.
Yep. And we're going to, Maggie, we're going to have council look at what wasn't proposed to be changed right now and see what else we should incorporate into this amendment.
Right, and you know, the last thing I'll say is, I think Ed said the other day that the right-of-way on state and county roads is not in the town's control. Did you say that, Ed, or did I mishear?
State and county rights of way are not something we can regulate, correct?
Right, right. So, again, you want to get into, I'll write this down, but, you know, you want to get into saying, what's a county road, what's a state road, what can you regulate, what you can't regulate? I mean, a simple law, I'll put my thoughts down in an email, but a simpler law than what's currently there that's balanced for messaging and for temporary event signs in front lawns, I think is the way to go. So,
All right. Thanks, Maggie.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Carrie?
Sure. Victoria Elsapini, please open your line.
Hi, Victoria.
Hey, greetings, everyone. How are you?
Good. Hey, Victoria, before you even start, I'm going to head you off and say I am going to ask the town at some point, I want to look at our tree ordinance and our tree law
great.
and see, because I saw your video, and I actually agree with you. I've also seen firsthand, I walk to Chappaqua Crossing every day, and I've seen all those trees that have come down, and I agree. It's very sad, and, you know, you see it all over town. So we're going to be looking at our tree law.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, Lisa. Grateful. And actually, the Conservation Board has been thinking about and looking at the tree ordinance, and we're drafting some ideas that we want to share with the town board sometime soon. So that's great timing, good synergy around that.
Perfect.
Actually, that's the main reason I'm here tonight, so I appreciate you mentioning that on the same wavelength. Yeah, you know, it has been just devastating to see all those trees come down. I guess my question tonight, or those trees at Chappaqua Crossing for the housing that's being built there, I was wondering who is the appropriate person to ask how many trees are coming down in this part of the development plan? Because I remember, all of us remember, I'm sure a few years ago, when Chappaqua Crossing was being approved, and there were 600 plus trees that came down for the development of the Chappaqua Crossing retail space. And I just am wondering, was that 600 plus including what's coming down now, or are these additional trees to that, 600 that I think folks initially thought were the whole number? So I don't know who to ask. I'd love to get those numbers, and I just wanted to put it out there tonight to ask you all, who is the appropriate person to ask that question?
Tom, and if Tom doesn't know, he'll be able to direct the request.
Yeah.
Good evening. I believe the person we'd like to reference that question to is Dennis Corelli, the environmental coordinator.
Okay. Hi, Tom. It's good to meet you.
Same here. If you'd like to call me tomorrow, I can get you in contact with Dennis. He's in the office as well.
Okay. I know Dennis well because we work together on the Conservation Board.
Yeah, he would be able to tell you the quantity of trees that were permitted to be taken down.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And, the second just organic piece that I wanted to mention, and thanks for the shout out, John Ehrlich, about the native plant stuff. I did join on to the work session with the obesity discussion. So thank you all for taking that proposal so seriously and talking about it again tonight in terms of the resolution. And I just wanted to kind of echo what Chris mentioned earlier, that interestingly, the Conservation Board does have so much native plant expertise. Missy Fable is a consultant who focuses on native plant landscaping. I also do native plant consulting. We have Melanie Smith, who is the former head of the Garden Club, who is incredibly knowledgeable. Lucille and Sue, there really is an incredible amount of native plant expertise. So to your points, Lisa, We will definitely think about, and look at, different native plants that we would recommend. I know we did a whole list for the buffers. We did a pamphlet a couple of years ago recommending plants for the buffers between properties. And there was a list of native plants there. And interesting, just in terms of semantics, when we talk about invasive plants, that typically refers to non-native plants that grow with no natural predators. So like a plant that comes from another country, from Asia, from England, they may be beautiful plants, but they don't biologically connect with the local flora and fauna. So there are no natural predators, and that's why they're able to expand so greatly and wind up all over everywhere and take over. So there are some native plants that are a little more aggressive. They aren't considered, quote unquote, invasive, but more aggressive. And we certainly can talk about those. It's interesting though, in some instances, using those is a real ecological benefit. Like in an area that needs erosion control, some of the more aggressive native plants are really beneficial actually. So it's a really interesting, nuanced question. And I'm glad you're raising it, Lisa. We can definitely talk about that at a conservation board meeting and, come back to the town board with our ideas about that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on one moment. I believe Missy Fable would like to speak, but her hand just went down again.
Oh, she's back.
Is it
Hi,
up?
Missy. Yep, you're on.
Hi, guys. Thank you. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for considering this resolution to be a B city, because I know this is something that, our ambassador for this, Gabriel Kelly, is really passionate about.
He's sitting here.
I really appreciate the consideration and how, how we can move this forward. But to echo some of Victoria's comments, I think that there is a significant amount of knowledge already on the Conservation Board. And so I know, Lisa, you had referenced that you spoke to someone else, an outside professional, about this. And, I'm just a little curious.
Something
Yeah,
in front of a mic is moving a lot, so you're getting staticky.
I bet. Oh, I'm so sorry. I beg your pardon. I haven't moved. Is this any better?
Much better.
Okay. I'll be perfectly still. So I, again, just wanted to say thank you for the consideration of the resolution and on behalf of all the work that Gabriel has done. And I'm also one of the people who's helping him to facilitate this. But given the comments about having a specific list of species, some of which might have more invasive tendencies, which again, if it's a native plant, it can be aggressive for sure. But for the public education, it's really good to kind of keep the terms invasive versus aggressive separate, just from a public education awareness part. But I know you had said you had referenced an outside resource, and I think it would be great for us to know a little bit more about that, and also, again, to offer up our services as a board that does consist of people who are professionals in this. I mean, I'm a professional landscape designer specializing in native plants, and I'm always happy to talk plants with anybody at any time they're willing. So that's my comment. I'm just not sure that we need to have this attachment recommendation, because I think this is something that can be under the Conservation Board's purview in terms of putting out lists, recommendations, digital lists, as I think Victoria had said.
Well, Missy,
So
that is how we're going to amend it, to say that you will, provide that type of list.
Okay.
In
Thank you for the
consultation with the town board, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarity. Well, so do we need to, does that list then need to be approved by the town board?
I think we'd like to see it before it goes out, yes.
Okay, so
But we're not
we'll
going to,
make
I
a
mean, I don't have the expertise to approve that necessarily, but, certainly we always like to know what's going on, and before we're going to put out something globally to the entire community, we'd like to know what's going out.
Okay, so you would like, just so I'm absolutely 100% clear. So you would like a list from the Conservation Board of recommended species that,
That are good
in regard to the
pollinators for,
application of Bee City.
right, that are good pollinators, a variety, all of that, because that's important.
Okay, and so then, but is the signing is not contingent on that,
No.
correct?
No, no, no.
That's just one of our roles that we need to do, having put this forth before the board.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, I said yes to somebody in the audience. To
No,
you,
no, I knew
to
you were saying
no,
yes
we
to
don't
them.
need that before we sign the resolution.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Missy.
Sure,
Thanks, Missy.
sure.
Okay. Great. Well, if there's any more public comment here. All right. So if there's no more public comment, we are going to move to our public hearings. Can I have a motion to open, well, first, do you want to discuss or we open it first? Can I have a motion to open the public hearing of a local law to amend Chapter 62 of the Town of Newcastle Energy Code and Chapter 74, Section 13, the Green Building Code of the Code of the Town of Newcastle concerning the Newcastle Energy Code?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so Ed, do you want to give us some information about this?
Sure. So the board's discussed this a couple of times. The last meeting, there was discussion about the potential cost ramifications of meeting stretch code requirements. And I think the takeaway from that discussion was that the board was comfortable and wanted to go forward with this local law, making the corrections to the town code that were necessary in the code council's view, anyway, to bring this into alignment with the state code requirements and eliminate any ambiguities or inconsistencies. So we've brought the draft local law forward. It's on for a public hearing tonight. The changes, Tom could speak to them, but they're very technical in nature. In terms of the redlining that you see in the draft.
Yep. So I just want to be clear also that, yes, we are going to be repealing what was done in December because we have to. Because what was promulgated by NYSERDA and what we adopted is not what the Code Council is apparently allowing us to adopt. So we have to repeal it. That does not mean we are repealing environmental laws. It means we have no choice. This is how the process works. Otherwise, we have a law that is not appropriate on our books. So we must first repeal before we then consider adopting.
Right, and technically at this point, we're really just talking about an amendment. Right? At one point, we had talked about potentially a need to repeal, but what's before the board tonight is simply an amendment to make some very technical changes, again, to appease the Code Council, whose job it is to review local codes and make sure that they are not less restrictive than what the state code requires. So again,
Correct.
very technical amendments to
Yes.
make that happen.
Perfect.
And I believe we were awaiting the updated economic analysis from NYSERDA, is that correct?
Did they say when they're going to provide
They
that?
said 2 weeks.
Weeks. Okay. All right, so why don't we open this to public comment? And I'm sensing there's someone here who wants to speak.
My name is Zachary Wolk. I'm a member of the Newcastle Sustainability Advisory Board.
Hi, Zach.
I'm here to read a letter on behalf of the Sustainability Advisory Board. Members of the town board, the Newcastle Sustainability Advisory Board strongly recommends the adoption of the revised New York Stretch Energy Code 2020 with implementation on or before June 30th, 2022. Our support continues to be based on the points previously detailed in our December 2021 letter. To briefly summarize, implementation of New York Stretch 2020 will result in lower energy usage for the life of a structure, provide an estimated break-even point for additional costs of only 10 years or less, facilitate ease of compliance with construction requirements, enable receipt of points with a $5,000 grant under the Clean Energy Communities Program, and reaffirm Newcastle's sustainability leadership. We are in a climate crisis. 4.5 years ago, the board adopted a resolution committing to the principles of the Paris Agreement. That included a commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 26% by 2025 through actions such as this. Energy use in residential and commercial buildings accounts for over 55% of the greenhouse gas emissions in our town. Newcastle has a number of significant development projects on the horizon, such as the 91 townhomes at Chappaqua Crossing and the proposed development of the Millwood supply property. The requirements of New York Stretch 2020 will result in energy efficiency, which will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and help Newcastle to meet its commitment. An extended public discussion regarding the potential unenforceability of New York Stretch 2020 will likely cause confusion as to the standards developers are expected to meet as they plan these projects. This board can play an integral role in this process by adopting this legislation without delay. Also, prompt adoption of the revised New York Stretch 2020 language will demonstrate that Newcastle remains a leader in implementing climate-smart measures to reduce our carbon footprint, as well as our commitment to New York State's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comments? Okay, is there anyone online, Carrie?
Yes, hold on one moment. Michael Weinberg.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, guys. Good evening. I would just like to voice my support for putting this climate smart building green code back into force after you have to repeal it because of the technical difficulties. But this should be something that most people support and will actually help them in the long run, as if people are concerned about inflation, the inflation on energy costs are way higher than the inflation on other things. And we have a climate emergency. It's time to do these kind of things. It's critically important for our town to be a leader in the county on these kind of issues. And I strongly urge you all to support putting this new code back in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Carrie?
Yes, hold on one moment.
Am I off?
Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Vivek.
Hey, hi guys. Vivek Agastya. I thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of myself here. I want to be clear, I'm not representing any other organization. I also want to add my 2 cents here in support of the New York Stretch Code. I suspect I'm preaching to the choir, but nevertheless, I'm going to try and make 2 quick points. Firstly, repeating what a few of the people here have said here, there is a significant challenge in front of us here to tackle climate change. And I'm going to touch on this, in a little bit of detail here. The Paris Accord, the goal there was a 1.5 degree warming world, right? You want to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees from a pre-industrialized time. And the 26% emissions reductions by 2025, that was the U.S. target, voluntary target, in order to be able to support that 1.5 degrees of warming metric. That is currently obsolete, right? The Paris Accord was signed in 2015. We're in 2022 now. The challenge in front of us is to get to a 50% reduction, and to do that by the end of the decade, right? It's significantly more difficult and significantly more challenging. And there was an IPCC report out yesterday which said that we're actually on target as a planet for 3.2 degrees of warming, significantly worse. And the difference between a 1.5 degree warming world and 3.2 degrees is really stark. 1.5 degrees is not that different from today. It's worse than today. We're at 1.1 degrees of warming as of today. 1.5 is worse, but it's you can visualize the impacts and you can start planning to mitigate against it. 3.2 degrees of warming is something where the majority of the planet is uninhabitable, right? So that's how stark the challenge is. And for us all to be able to get to 50% reductions by 2030 and to get to net zero by 2050 is a significant challenge. It's a significant challenge for us as individuals. It's a significant challenge for you as the board. And we're going to be making a lot of tough decisions to be able to get there. This isn't one of those tough decisions. I am not going to belabor the point, but I do want to point out that the year 2100, right? This is when we get to the 3.2 degrees. It's not really that far out. My youngest daughter is 4 years old. She'll be 83 in the year 2100. That's my dad's age right now. So in layman's terms, what we're trying to decide here is, are we going to give kids my daughter's age the retirement that my dad's enjoying now, or are we going to be exposing them to devastating weather patterns? Right? It's that simple of a question, and it's not really in their hands. They don't have any agency. We're the people that need to make these decisions, and we have 8 years to do it. Thanks for the opportunity. Like I said, I firmly believe that I'm preaching to the choir here, but I think we're going to have to make a lot of tough decisions in the next 8 years. I think it's good to get ready to start having those discussions. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Victoria House opinion, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi again. Sorry to chime in again. Just like the top 10 of important environmental issues tonight.
We
So I
like
just
when
wanted to
people
say-
call in, so we like
Say
participation.
that once again?
We like participation.
Okay,
So thank
great.
you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to kind of echo some of the comments people have made, and I'm actually on the Climate Smart Communities Task Force as well as the Conservation Board, so you know that I'm really here speaking as an individual tonight. But it has been really eye-opening being on the Climate Smart Communities Task Force in terms of really looking at what type of initiatives we need to promote as a town to address climate change and to be, on the cutting edge of all of these efforts. And we have done, I think, an amazing job historically around focusing on sustainability, and the Sustainability Advisory Board has done fantastic things, and as a community in general. And at this juncture point, here we are, we just got bronze certification. We're about to go for silver certification through the Climate Smart Communities work. And it just feels like this piece, the stretch code, is such a core and important initiative that will affect so much and have such an impact. Even if you look at the Climate Smart Communities list of initiatives that they want everyone to implement, this has many points attached to it because it is so powerful and it does have such an impact. And I think a lot of us feel frustrated, in our own lives, societally, universally speaking, that we have little control of things that impact climate change. And this is something, a policy that we can implement that really will have a huge amount of impact in reducing our carbon footprint, and again, as everyone has said, continuing to be a leader around environmental and sustainability issues. So I personally, as a resident, just really would like to urge all of you to vote in support of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Victoria.
I don't see any other hands.
All right, going once. Going twice. All right. So should we adjourn this public hearing?
You could adjourn it, you could close it, and leave it open for public comment. It's really up to the board.
Well, if we're awaiting financials, can we close it, or?
It's up to the board.
I'm okay closing it and just leaving it open for public comments for a week.
I support that as well, and thank Victoria, Vivek, Michael, and especially Zach for speaking. It's not easy to get up in front of people and speak, no matter your age, and I would not say that you're carrying your father's torch or baton, you're doing it on your own. But I'm grateful that you came up here, and we're certainly listening to you, all of you collectively. This is certainly important, and I've never wavered on it from when we passed it back last year. But I think everyone up here acknowledges the importance and value of this legislation. So thank you all.
Yeah, and I also want to thank everyone for coming to speak so eloquently, excuse me, and passionately. So I also appreciate the importance of the issue.
Okay, so can we make a motion to close the public hearing, leave it open for public comments?
I'm thinking that we
really
want to
see.
keep it open either till the 14th, Lisa, or the 18th. The 15th is Good Friday, so we would be closed.
So let's leave it open to the 18th.
Okay, why don't we do it noon on the 18th and then?
Perfect.
Okay.
So can I have a motion?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So next, we have a public hearing regarding a local law enacting a moratorium for the North Greeley corridor. Can I have a motion to open that public hearing?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Ed, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So this is a proposed development moratorium in an area of North Greeley that we've identified the board has identified previously, and was subject to a moratorium in connection with the review of the form-based code. This moratorium would bring back, or would apply to the same area on North Greeley, would have the same threshold in terms of the square footage of the projects that it would be, that it would apply to, and would have the same hardship carve-out and standard language that we had in the prior development moratorium. We've received a comment letter from Westchester County. They're not supportive of the local law. The board's still waiting for a comment letter from the Newcastle Planning Board, and I'm told that's the board's meeting tonight, and I'm told that we should have that. You should have that this week.
Okay, my thought with this moratorium is it is not going to last 2+ years. It's going to be short-term as we're considering, what any zoning change, if any, on North Greeley. But we are in the middle of looking at that, as is the planning board, considering that. So that's that. So let me open it for public comment. I don't see anyone in person here. Carrie, is there anyone online?
If anyone's interested, please raise your digital hand. I don't see any hands.
All right. So should we do the same thing, close this, leave it open for written comments until noon on the 18th?
Don't we want to wait for the,
I think you'll have it by then.
we will have it?
But yeah, it's a week and a half, right? Or 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I don't know.
It's just shy of 2 weeks.
Just shy of 2 weeks. So can I have a motion to close the public hearing, leave it open for public comments till noon on the 18th?
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is really just some consent agenda items. Is there anyone on the board who wanted to remove anything from the consent agenda items? Okay. So would you like to start?
I actually don't have it.
Okay. Who would like to start with the resolutions? Do you have
I
them?
have it, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I move to adopt the consent agenda as submitted, consisting of the following: adoption of minutes from March 2022, authorization to post for highway, water, summer health, DPW, authorization to attend conference, DPW, authorization to renew service contract, DNR, resolution to standardize the type of fire hydrants to be installed throughout town, authorization to waive tax penalty to Ala Partis Circle, authorization to accept proposal for professional consulting services for a roof replacement for CPAC, resolution authorizing execution of First Amendment to agreement to purchase real property regarding the Millwood Sidewalk project, authorization to approve First Amendment to the intergenerate license agreement, resolution authorizing Sustainable Westchester Memorandum of Understanding for participation in short-term Westchester Power Extension Contract for Con Edison Service Territory.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Shall I continue?
Sure.
I move to approve the payment of claims in the amount of $460,386.09 listed on the summary pre-check writing report and voucher detail report, both dated April 1, 2022. Checks will be cut and mailed to each claimant listed on Wednesday, April 6, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I move to authorize the appointment of Kent Thomas as co-chair and Vivek Agastya as a member of the Sustainability Advisory Board for a 2-year term effective April 6, 2022 through April 5th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, let Jeremy go.
Well, I can make the motion even though I'm abstaining, correct?
Why?
Well, because I didn't vote on the other ethics, I didn't do the ethics
Oh.
interviews. Yeah, because I
Okay.
wasn't part of the ethic interview, so. yeah,
All
so-
right, so
Go
go for it.
All right, I move to authorize the appointment of Dora Strauss and Guan Shen Tong as members of the Board of Ethics for a 3-year term effective April 6, 2022 through April 5th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Lisa, do you want me to read this whole thing? Is this important for the city, or shall we paraphrase this?
I think you can paraphrase it, and this is at the, give that to, that's at the end of the resolution.
This is something you would normally do, Lisa.
know.
This is your wheelhouse here. Sorry.
Like Ed to summarize it?
Yeah, Ed, why don't you do that? That would be terrific.
I actually gave away my hard copy.
Here.
Perfect. And here, Ed, here's this too. Good job, Ed.
How'd you get out of that?
That's management skills, Lisa.
See what a team player I
Delegating
am.
authority.
All right. Board, I'm going to summarize a resolution that's on your agenda tonight to become, to have Newcastle become a city. There are a number of whereas clauses that talk about the importance of the policies and objectives behind this program. And the resolution continues that the town development department will be the city sponsor. The development department worked closely with this program to develop and fine tune this resolution. So thank you to them. There is one change to the resolution, and we're going to add a paragraph G at the end. Species list. The Conservation Board is directed to prepare and disseminate a list of plant species that are both preferred and discouraged. So if someone wants to move that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great job,
Aye.
Ed.
Great job.
All right, I move to adopt a local law to create Chapter 6 of the Code of the Town of Newcastle to establish an alternate board member position of the Town of Newcastle Planning Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And are we moving to adjourn? Are we done? Is that anything outstanding?
Anything else? Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
You can entertain it. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you, everyone. Good night.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Good night.